So, then I'd like to welcome you all to 45 with Head Biotech. This was supposed to be the first live broadcast. I've planned for the program to be live.
And also welcome to the international audience. The show will be in Norwegian, but I will speak clearly so that translation function in YouTube will be satisfactory.
Then back to Norwegian. Yes, there were problems during the live broadcast at 21:00, so this is uploaded about an hour after the scheduled start. I almost expected there would be issues, but okay. It got a bit hectic because after January 27, 2026, after the third incident with NASA since December 6, I thought I had to drop everything and deal with the developments at NASA. In a way, I had to scramble to document the Artemis II launch. So I suddenly had to order a microphone and so on. Things moved pretty fast. But if I get about a week to prepare, I think the next broadcast in 2 weeks will go live as planned. So in today's program, there will first be a short welcome segment where I'll mention a few small things for a couple of minutes. After that, I will present the latest news on the Artemis program. It will be a news section where I read aloud as if it were a professional news reading. The news will be facts about the Artemis program that have happened since the last episode. And finally, there will be a special topic at the end of the show. All episodes will be structured this way. First, a bit of welcome talk, then the news rating. We assume there will always be some news related to the Artemis program. And at the end of the program, there will be a special topic that I cover. I would perhaps recommend that those of you who want to stay updated follow me on X. And finally, today, the special topic is going to be about this Jack Parsons, whom I've already written about on X. You can see his picture here to my right. Here he is together with his wife or something. Yes, that's his wife. And then looking at the picture above Jack and his wife, we see the actual Artemis II rocket, the rocket that is going to be launched toward the moon with a crew in 4 weeks. So now I'll start with some small talk, a bit of small talk I've come across since last time. The first thing I want to mention quickly is something I haven't talked about yet. It's not just NASA trying to get into space. You have the Chinese and Russians too. And it's a bit special. Are the Fermi life forms only going to stop NASA? Or are they going to go after everyone, meaning humanity as a whole? I'm not saying I hate NASA or anything, just to be clear, but I'm a bit skeptical. And I think we should be allowed to be skeptical. I talked about this in the pilot program a few days ago as well, and I would perhaps recommend that anyone completely new watches that pilot program, because there I spent over an hour explaining the background for why I have this program in the first place and why I'm going to follow the Artemis program. And so to the big question, why would there be a NASA curse? I can't go through the reasoning for that in every single episode. So that previous pilot episode, I've cleaned up the text and things like that. There were some wrong words and such in the texting on YouTube. But if you watch the pilot program lasting for about an hour, you should actually be very well prepared. But I think I'll actually start with the news now. And of course, the first broadcasts won't be perfect. Like right now, I have to lean over to the laptop to start the news reading. So those are the kinds of details I think I should improve for later. But now I have to lean over to the laptop in order to start the news segment. So I just apologize for that. And a bit about the studio. The monk, I've focused a bit on the painter Edvard Munch. Up here is Van Gogh, here is also a monk, and down here is a local Norwegian painter. Then it is this thing regarding Edvard Munch and Van Gogh. I fell in love with Munch maybe a couple of years ago or so, but also Van Gogh. Then there's this question about Munch when he was on that journey of his in Europe, in France. And when he came back from that European trip, he changed his style a bit and became suspiciously similar to Van Gogh, if you ask me. But we can't know. You're innocent until proven otherwise, which also applies to NASA. It's important to be a bit civilized for a society to function. To make the machinery work, we can't throw around accusations all the time. But I do think it's a bit strange with Edvard Munch, but we should also give him the benefit of the doubt. Anyway, Munch is a very, very skilled artist. But how high a status does he deserve? That's kind of what I'm talking about. And the prices for Van Gogh paintings are of course much higher than a Munch. So fortunately, it's fair in that regard. All right, then I'll start the news segment about the most important things that have happened this week, and it will take about 5 to 10 minutes. So again, I apologize that I now have to lean forward to activate the news. Now we come to the special topic for today's episode. But first, I want to comment a little on the news. I mean the thing with NASA. Even though they have delayed the launch after the wet dress test, I don't think that's anything special. It's the MAVEN probe that NASA lost contact with on December 6 that I find very strange. And then there are those 2 other cases since MAVEN. But this delay with the Artemis 2 launch, I don't think it's particularly strange. It has happened many times before, and it's almost expected. You have to remember that what they are doing here is sending rockets up and out into space. It's not an easy operation. It's not like starting a car. So, welcome to today's special topic. When I was researching NASA, it didn't take long before this name appeared, Jack Parsons, and the more I've looked into it, at first you think, oh, there are demons in NASA and stuff like that. But I don't have that thought anymore. I've completely moved away from it, and I never really had it. But it became a cool angle, right? Like it was Jack Parsons who activated demons in NASA or something. But I don't agree with that now. I'm not there at all. The more I read about him, I respect him. I have great respect for smart people like Jack Parsons was. You have to remember that these are the people who create our development. For example, that I can sit here with a camera and be on the internet and get translations from Norwegian to English and so on. These are the people who make it possible, so I think we should be a bit humble toward them, even if some of them are a bit crazy sometimes. So, once again, I think we should at least give the accused the benefit of the doubt. And the more I do research about Jack, the better impression I actually got of him. But it was a bit scary, because the worst part is that he might have been onto something with his occult ideas, because I see it in connection with the Paradise Machine model. And I came across several things that really threw me back and forth, both in fear but also in confirmation, like, oh wow, maybe we were a bit on the same thing here, me and Jack. But I stand firm that the occult stuff they were doing was in the completely wrong direction in relation to the Paradise Machine model. The Paradise Machine model says that practically all of us will come to paradise, but I cannot decide that. Only the machine can, because this is supposed to be a machine. I'm just presenting the design of how this machine should be built. So it will be up to the machine, because I'm not talking about demons and personal things like that. I'm really just talking about an ice cold machine. We can compare it to a machine that just makes decisions, measures potential enemies, measures risk and danger, and makes the decisions. I propose that, especially in the 2024 article, where I discuss the morality of the Paradise Machine in Part 3, there I address the machine's proposed design. What I am 100% sure of and have with a clean heart is that if the design is right, then the creator behind the machine, or the creators, or whatever it is that designed it, must be good. What we will see as good really starts with the fact that the brutal design in the machine is actually what protects the children, or the innocents, if you like. And then I say in the 2024 article that this example with the baby and children is the first clear sign that the creators of this machine share some preferences with us for what we also define as good and evil, because the machine should have the baby as the highest of the highest status in the machine's hierarchy. Which principle really concerns the zero-risk argument and the zero-risk signal that attracted the Fermi life form. But this special topic with Jack Parsons became so much to cover that I'll have to take it up again. Maybe I should do a continuation of this in the next episode, because there was so much to cover with Jack Parsons. But perhaps the most incredible thing, which I found completely incredible, is that Jack Parsons also became more and more preoccupied with the woman. This was in the 1940s and 50s, especially during World War II. Jack Parsons was basically the one who invented rocket propulsion technology. Remember that before World War II, it was propeller planes, but the transition to using liquid hydrogen, it was actually Jack behind that. He had some colleagues, but this thing about firing many small explosions to control the enormous forces in these combustion engines, that was him. And he may even have helped decide World War II, because suddenly the US military planes could take off faster with heavier loads, and so on, because they just attached these turbo things, these portable extra jet engines under the plane to give them speed, and then just drop the turbo engines off afterward. That was the beginning of the jet engine. And he helped establish the first companies that even today you see the logos of these companies, such as Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL. But it all really started at Caltech University in California. JPL. It's kind of the laboratory where they developed, and still to this day, develop rocket technology. And those logos are still on NASA equipment today. And it would be exciting to see if the JPL logo is also on the Artemis II launch. Hence, Parsons was very important in that way, but I won't start claiming that he brought demons into NASA. But perhaps the most dramatic thing with this research, it was Parsons' obsession with the women. That in his occult studies, he also became very preoccupied with the woman, since the women has of course become extremely important in the Paradise Machine model and in the approach theory. The approaching Fermi life forms themselves are supposed to have a feminine nature or a feminine intelligence. This was explained in the pilot episode. Jack, he tried to summon these evil women demons, like this Babylon character in the picture here. It was supposed to be a female demon called Babylon who controlled access behind the abyss. It's incredible how advanced it actually was. Their rituals were very difficult to understand in detail, but I'm pretty sure they went in the evil direction. But what I really find interesting is that it seems there are many parallels with the Paradise Machine model. There are many similarities here, just in the opposite direction, the evil direction. But a lot of the thinking seems very similar, and they were very preoccupied with freedom. The founder of the Thelema sect group Parsons followed, Aleister Crowley. He called it freedom, right? That people should do whatever they want. Do what thou wilt, right? Straight from Crowley's book, Total Freedom. Exactly what the Paradise Machine model also says. As I see it, they were just searching for their own paradise in a way, but in the wrong direction. My point is that this question of good and evil is actually relative. What I see as one of the most important tasks of the Paradise Machine theory is actually to standardize what evil properties are in relation to good properties. And whatever sets the standard for that is in the design of the Paradise Machine itself. The founder of the sect, Aleister Crowley, he was even named the most evil man in the world in England. But what I like a bit is that they were at least honest and tried to get to the bottom of these important things in life. But as I see it, this is the loser's path. They're going against the machine, or against nature, if you like. For the reason they can go against nature is because of the energy context that changed in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. Jack Parsons were among the first to experience constant abundance on Earth. And then, according to the fourth law of thermodynamics, evil should start to gain a little bit more control. You should start being able to remove freedom from nature, right? Remove chaos. And according to the machine model, that's what evil needs to be able to win, to become stronger than good in nature. As I have understood, they were probably the ones who introduced this 666 number and these pentagrams. So it's pretty scary stuff, but still, I would say that these people were just after freedom. I don't think it's strange that a human tries to become free. It's just that I think they're doing it the wrong way. Religiously speaking, with religions you have the monotheistic ones that submit to God. while these are more about making themselves God. I think that's more where the line is drawn, but they should somehow become gods themselves and gain freedom that way. But in relation to the paradise machine model, the point is that this was already decided a long time ago. We arrived long after to the party here. I think that's the issue. This was decided a long, long time ago. So, in summary, I'm not saying it's inherently wrong, they're moral, and so on, but if we enter the game billions of years after someone else has taken power in the universe, it becomes a bit unintelligent. You can say it's unfair just because someone came first and start a moral debate. But I would say that perhaps the smartest thing is, let's say the machine model is correct. That's why I'm trying to get people to think for themselves, so they don't risk marching into hell. And I also write in the 2024 article that it would be a catastrophe if people march into hell. For example, if they don't think that way at all. Or at least my task is at least to get people to understand that this could be correct if the theory with the paradise machine is right. Then it's not good, for example, to achieve zero risk. So let's say you are one of them who risk to achieve zero risk strategies, but most people won't manage it. It's supposed to be extremely difficult. But at least to change the way you think, to perhaps submit to the paradise machine, and change your mindset in relation to what Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley did. So my impression after looking into it a bit is that they just chose the wrong solution, because everyone wants freedom. So I don't think it's wrong that they want freedom. I think that's a completely normal thing to think. The problem is that they want to dominate nature. That's what these people did. The problem is when you try to dominate nature in that process and give yourself freedom. That's when you achieve zero risk. That those who were here before us, whoever they are, constructed this machine to stop that. And if that's correct, then it's just to step on the brake immediately, right? Because if it's just a technical machine that only measures risk and intentions, then maybe it's wise to stop a bit and think. Just take 2 steps back, and maybe that's all you need. We don't need to do that much. I think almost everyone on Earth should qualify for this paradise state. So if a whole generation just marches into the zero-risk trap without even knowing it, that's it. But when it comes to this occult stuff, I'll have to go into the details at a later point. But this is actually interesting stuff, and I don't think it really has anything to do with NASA anymore, in my opinion. I mean that NASA would have employees interested in this. It fits the time they lived in. Because that was when energy abundance started, and these new thoughts got the time and resources to take place. But I see them as losers in a sense. Jack Parsons and these were very successful people in many ways, but I think in terms of seeking to achieve their freedom, because they are also seeking that paradise. This to come on the other side of Parsons talks more and more. It's almost like a parallel world to the paradise machine, and it also talks about coming to the other side of this thing with Babylon. Yes, to cross. One of the main goals when Parsons and Aleister Crowley, who were kind of the leaders and considered to have gone furthest in these occult things, they talk about coming to the other side of crossing, what they called the abyss, which is guarded by the demoness Babylon, and it's supposed to be a place where you can come to the other side and get total freedom. So they are really talking about a paradise state, and they even talk about stars. When they had these mantras, some of them believed that Aleister Crowley thought he received, almost like Muhammad, that he received a message from a demon and then read it out, and it became a book in the same way that Islam believes Muhammad received the entire message through a voice in his head. And the same with Aleister Crowley, except he wrote a slightly smaller book. So these were really religious. But what's a bit scary is whether there actually are demons, right? But I mean that if there was, they have no chance against the Paradise Machine. Or I don't think there really are demons, but it's hard to say. I write a bit about it in the 2025 article, that if there were demons, they would just be a temporary thing that actually has no power in the universe at all. And the only reason they exist might just be to serve as bait, for example, just to separate out, so that the Paradise Machine can separate out its enemies, for example. But that has to be up to the viewers to decide these things. So that's why I say, don't just listen to what I say, read the article and make up your own minds. I'm just suggesting that we actually live inside a machine. We can see it as a machine designed to produce a product, namely an eternal paradise state. And I think this is a positive thing, and that almost everyone will come to this paradise if it's true. And at least all children are 100% guaranteed because they can't achieve zero risk. And even animals and those living in chaos, those parts of the world where there is tremendous chaos, like in India, for example. For example, I was in India, and there you have 1.5 billion people. And if you've been in traffic in India, you understand what chaos is. And you can say what you want about chaos, but these people, also Crowley and these occult people, talk about chaos, that God should be chaos, and so on. I don't quite understand. I can't make everything fit with the Paradise Machine model, but the most important conclusion for me here is that there are really two ways to think about religion. One is that you don't believe there are advanced life forms, that you don't believe there is any other life, that we are the only ones in the entire universe, and always have been, because then you think you shall become God, right? That you shall take over and dominate here, and give yourself freedom that way. And then you have the other direction, that thinks more that submission to something that is already established is the smartest strategy. In summary, it seems that all people, all parties here have the goal of total freedom and security. So I just see it as different ways to reach the same goal. And I wouldn't have any big problem, for example, seeing Jack and Aleister in paradise somewhere. If they got their own paradise, it wouldn't bother me that much. Okay, now there are 5 minutes left of the show. Because they took risks, Aleister Crowley was in a very exposed position and lived in quite a high-risk situation. He was even called the wickedest man in the world and things like that, and was a leader and took the risk, you could say. He stood for what he believed in, and so on, and same with Jack. But this topic is huge. It's not very tempting to go very deep into it, but I understand that there is room for at least one more episode, and maybe I'll finish it next time. We'll see. But I'll wrap it up for this time. So this was the first episode of 45 with Head Biotech, and unfortunately, I didn't manage the live stream. It could be fun later to have a live chat, for example, and get input if we get more viewers, and even maybe from abroad who know more about this topic. That could be interesting. And there are surely many who know a lot about this. I've only read about it maybe the last week or so. Then I think I'll end with this intro video. About that intro video, I understand that some will probably react to head biotech being a bit ego. And sometimes I agree that it becomes that. I get a bit tired of it myself, it always being about me in a way, but that's just how it is. That's how head biotech became what it is. It started with me, and it's very much about me. But now I've come to realize that despite that, I really want to help many people on Earth. And if I could contribute to getting everyone on Earth, for example, into a paradise state, and we don't have to be together in paradise. According to the Paradise Machine model, there will be billions of these villages, and it doesn't even have to be villages. I don't know, but if the theory is correct, then I think there are tons of positive things here for all people, and everyone gets their own paradise. There are supposed to be billions upon billions of these villages, right, where they basically have the same security and so on. So don't try to connect it to you having to like me to get to paradise or anything like that. That's not how it is. So now we're at 45 minutes. And I'll just finish with one important thing. I don't want money or anything. There won't be any donation buttons and buy me a coffee and so on. This paradise stuff is not for sale at all. That would be one of the worst things I could do. And kindly stop me if one day I start threatening ordinary people for money to get to paradise or something. But when it comes to philanthropists and those who already have a lot of money, if they see an interest and want to be involved because they think the theory can help create something positive for the world and so on, then that's the financial side of it. But never think that you have to press the like button or donate money. There will never be donation buttons, and I won't even accept it if someone tries to donate or transfer money to my account or anything like that. Okay, so then I'll run this intro video again as a closing video too. I think that intro video can be good if you're new. If you watch the intro video, then the events come in chronological order from when it really started with these paradise women from 2006 up to this massa curse. It will be the same as the introduction video, but really you can't watch it too many times if you're not very familiar with the topic. Thank you for today. Thank you for this broadcast, the first broadcast really. But it wasn't fully live. It came on the web about an hour delayed. So now I'll go to the laptop and upload it to YouTube, and you'll see this about an hour later, the earliest. Okay, have a good evening and just follow me on X to see when the next episode comes. I can say about every 14 days, depending on what happens in these Artemis programs. And there may be things that pop up that make me have to jump in and do another broadcast. Okay, take care.